Okay, all right, okay. Good morning, y'all. How y'all doing? It is so good to be here. Even though I'm not here live and in person this morning in real time with you, I am traveling. You see, I'm on a different set. Still in Atlanta. But next Sunday I will certainly be back to in my spot doing what it is that I do. So you know who I am. This is Celebrity Mary, and I am your host. I'm out here leading with love and governed by peace over on the MoneyFest Destiny Show. This here is the gospel of money because money is your God given right. It's a different kind of Bible study, and we do this each and every Sunday at the most segregated hour of the week, 11 a.m. I've come back and I rebroadcast the same show on Sundays at 6 p.m. and again on Thursdays at 12 p.m. I'm not going to give you the call-in number today because I'm not going to be here to receive your calls. So it don't make sense to give you the call-in number today. However, I still want you to give me feedback. I still want you to let me know if I'm hitting all the marks that you want me to hit. And let me know if you think that there's something in particular that I should talk about, or if you think that you like to see me and somebody else have a conversation, a little exchange about this information that we put out here on this show. As usual, be sure to stick around to the end for some exciting announcements about business credit and other juicy stuff that I got coming up the rest of this year. Now, even though I'm not recording, even though I'm recording this and I'm premiering it, I will be able to see comments in real time, and I will respond to any comments that I see. So feel free to comment on this, even if you're watching in the replay this morning at 11 a.m. because I'm still here. I'm still here. I just can't be in the spot I need to be in at 11 o'clock. Therefore, I love y'all so much, and I love this show so much that I decided I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna record my show and put it up so that at 11, those of us who have become addicted to this thing can get our fix. All right. Listen, speaking of fixes, this show right here, it comes with caveats, warnings, and disclaimers. Listen, don't assume that somebody lying just because you ain't never heard the teaching before now. Also, I got to make sure y'all understand that the opinions that are expressed are those of the speakers and not necessarily those of the show. And any advice that's given is based on personal experience and independent research by the speaker. So engage at your own risk. All right, so today I got a little something for you. You know, I always have a little something for you. Have a little something for you. Got someone in the chamber for you today. We want to talk about what God has to say about those who do not support you. You know, here on the MoneyFest Destiny Show, we are here solving real problems. We talk about this money thing. Did you know that next to God, and if you've been watching this show, you already know, but next to God, God himself, the second most discussed topic in the Bible is money. That says a lot to me. What that says to me, myself, I personally, is that God, who we all love, who we all serve, who we all revere, who we all honor, who we know is the wisest, the all-knowingest, the all-powerfulest, the all-presentest, had a specific reason for doing this thing here, and it is this. He knows that if we live in here in this 3D world that we call Earth, that we're going to need some money, right? So money is pretty important to God, and because money is important to God, it should also be important to you. Now, you know, we got to I'm speaking straight from the Bible. There's tons of scriptures that have a whole lot of things to say about money. Like I said, it's the second most discussed topic in the Bible, but a lot of us have been taught that money is not for us, is not good for us, is evil, et cetera, et cetera. I then have to ask you, if that's the case, then why would an all-loving, benevolent God talk so much about money? So in case you didn't know, that's what this show here is about. So we're going to get into that. If you're not already following me out on Twitter, Periscope, and IG, go look for me. I am Celebrity Mary. Of course, follow my Facebook page, Celebrity Mary - Golden Hearts Holdings. Before the show, before I get into the scriptures, before I get to proving to you that money is your God-given right, I always try to frame the show. So let's talk a few numbers. Now, this week is particularly interesting for me. The reason that I'm not on my set today is because I am in Atlanta. I attended the Hope Global Forum's annual meeting this week, and I was more focused on interviewing speakers than I was going into the workshops and getting the numbers. But when I tell you that the The landscape for those who are not participating, who are not fully participating in this economy, does not look good. I did not leave out of there feeling like, man, this, things are getting better for poor people. That's not how I felt when I left. Because at the end of the day, the truth of the matter is, here in this country that we live in, these here United States, and this here earth, with this global economy that we have, and with the rapid advancements, the breakneck speeds of innovation in the technology sector, the information age, dog, if you're not keeping up, you are getting left behind. You are either at the table or on the menu. And right now, a lot of people are on the menu, and they're on the menu out of sheer ignorance. And when I say that, I'm not being insulting, because there are people who have money that are also on the table in that way. Do you know how many millionaires there are in the world? If I told you, you probably laugh. You probably like, what? How? How's that possible? Because you may not personally know any yourself that you know of. That's a characteristic of a millionaire. They typically don't say, I'm a millionaire. They don't typically run around going, I'm a millionaire. I'm a millionaire. Typically, the people who you see running around doing that, not millionaires. Typically. But anyway, that's another story for another day. We're not going to have that show today. We got another show. So let me talk about these here imbalances, right? Let me talk about these imbalances. I wish I had my notes, my handwritten notes with me, because one of the things that I did want to point out is a statistic that I saw a few weeks ago that says that Black people, Black families, have lower home ownership rates today than they did 30, 40, 50 years ago. I want you to let that sink in a little bit. Around the civil rights era, around the time that the civil rights era kicked off, Black families had higher rates of home ownership than they do today. And you got to ask yourself why that is. You have to ask yourself why that is. And one of the reasons that I believe it is because there's another statistic that says that generational wealth in the hands of an uneducated generation is diminished and depleted within 3 generations. It only takes about 3 generations to get rid of it. So if you don't understand how the money system works, or if you don't remain vigilant and understand, like continually educating yourself and your children about how money works, then as systems change, as the money system evolves, and it has evolved immensely over the past 40, 50 years, if your children are not aware that the money system can even change, then guess what? All that hard work that you're doing, all the stuff that you're building for them, all of the protections that you're putting in place now by, basically amassing wealth and kind of setting it aside and putting it into this vehicle and that vehicle, if you don't know how to hedge against certain losses, if you don't know how to create certain safeguards for your children and teach those safeguards to your children, then they're going to squander it. And they probably are not going to be balling out of control. They're going to squander it out of ignorance. So I'm here. This is the pre-frame to the framing of the show. I'm here to remind you that your job as a responsible parent, as a responsible grandparent, as a responsible great-grandparent, because we get younger and younger as grandparents, we get younger and younger. It is your responsibility to educate yourself and to educate your children. It is also your responsibility to be open to new information if your children are coming back to you and saying, parent, this is what I see out in this changing world. This internet of everything, it's changed everything. It's changed everything. The internet moves just about at the speed of thought. Technology is moving just about at the speed of thought. And in an age of information, ignorance is a choice. There is no reason, none whatsoever, no reason for anyone to be ignorant of this information, because it's out here. It's out here. There are people like me walking around every day or getting up early on Sunday mornings to come and tell you that not only is it out there and it's available, but you deserve it. You're worthy and you ought to have it. You got to do the work to get it, though. The Bible says if a man don't work, he don't eat. That doesn't necessarily mean labor. That's not the only way to work. And I want to make sure that I convey that message in such a way that you recognize that you can get out here and you can get it. In fact, it's your responsibility to get out here and get it. All right. So let's move on to the framing of the show. This show talks about the imbalances created by the inequities in wealth distribution within this country. Okay. So we know that there are 4 classes of workers. They're the poor and the working class, and they're the wealthy and the elite. We know that the children of the wealthy and the elite, a lot of them will never complete a job application or work for a living, okay? They make up about 5% of the world's population, but they share in about 95% of the world's wealth. Let that sink in for a moment. Let that sink in for a moment. I got 100 people in the room, and I got $100. 95% of the dollars, 95 of those dollars are going to be shared between 5 of those people. What does that leave? That leaves $5 to be shared with 95 people. Inequity and imbalance. Makes sense, right? This country that we live in, United States, makes up no more than about 8% of the world's population, but it consumes about 85% of the world's resources. Inequity and imbalance. You understand what I'm saying? So I mentioned earlier how the rates of Black home ownership has plummeted over the past couple generations in Black communities, while, oh, pardon me, y'all, that's my reminder, well, and most of, and I neglected to say that the primary wealth vehicle for many Black families had been home ownership. Remember, that's the American dream. That's the American dream. It's not what was promised at the end of the Civil War, 40 acres and a mule, because that's something else entirely. If you got 40 acres, that's not just your home. Your wealth is in the land. Your wealth is in the creation of agriculture, agribusiness. Your wealth is in, timber. Your wealth is in the minerals. Your wealth is in the land. And you can mine that out, or you can build that out, or you can do whatever it is that you want to do to create continual, uninterrupted streams of inflow of cash, so that you can, continue to do the things that you need to do for yourself and your generation. So the promise, the American dream, is different from the American promise for Black families, right? So Black families, though, got to a place where they were beginning to participate in the American dream, despite the best efforts of some white developers, the creation of subdivisions and suburbs. Despite their best efforts to keep Black people from being able to own homes, more Black people owned homes during those times than now. That says a lot. That says a lot. We're increasing in our levels of access, but we're not capitalizing on it, according to these statistics. And I'm speaking to this from a racial perspective today, because we believe, and evidence demonstrates, in my mind, that race is not only a factor, but is actually a primary driver in obtaining and maintaining wealth. In fact, I watched there's a post that I made in the Money School about a study that was done that says that when all things are equal, when you line it up, that the consistently, this has been found consistently, that Black homes or Black neighborhoods are greatly undervalued compared to their white counterparts. It could be the same square footage, it could be the same acreage, it could be the occupants or the owners have the same levels of education, have the same types of jobs in the same industry, earning the same amount of money, and paying in the same tax bracket, the whole nine. But if this home and these people are in neighborhoods where 50% or more of the other people are Black or African American, compared to 50% of the other neighborhood being white or not Black or African American, then the homes in the Black communities are significantly, systemically, and systematically undervalued compared to their white counterparts. So it is becoming more and more difficult. It's very hard. I have been saying for a long time that this is a trajectory. This is that I've been using soft language around it. Let me just say it how it is. I've been using real soft language around it. I've been trying to be political is the word that's coming to mind, although I wasn't thinking about it in that way. But I definitely was trying to not be offensive to people who are not Black. But at this point, I'm like, fuck that. Because at the end of the day, it is what it is. We have not only anecdotal evidence, but empirical evidence that demonstrates that race is not only a factor, but is a primary driver. When you think about redlining, when you think about the actuarial process, when you think about even how these Black neighborhoods get set up to be devalued in this way, when you go from over policing to no police, you know what I'm saying? So crime rates spike. You go to, once crime rates begin to spike, then you start getting the blight. You don't have the cities are not, the neighborhoods are not as clean. You begin to see trash everywhere. Then you start seeing windows being broken and homes being boarded up. Then you see the tax rate doesn't change. You may see a dip in employment, but you will see an increase in property taxes on homes that have been paid off for generations. Or you may have people who are living in homes that need improvements who will go and take a mortgage against the home that's been paid off, but it'll be some product that they are ignorant of, or they'll have a higher rate, or they may have an adjustment coming up that catches them off guard, and they just don't know. They've not been educated in that space, so they don't know that it's a setup. It's a setup and a foil, but in order for the property values to be decreased, so that investors, is part of these are all, you look at any master plan, it follows this formula precisely. All of this, after a while, you have about 10 years of degradation, and then you begin to see things like people moving out. You have the foreclosure start coming up. You start seeing the absentee landlords. You start seeing one or two investors showing up in a neighborhood buying out a house. You start seeing the renters. You start you start to see things that we begin to call bad neighborhoods, sketchy neighborhoods, and that kind of stuff, right? And before you know it, the property value is so inexpensive that those investors and developers begin to show up in those communities and purchase those homes, begin to rehab them, make them better, make them look nicer, start cleaning up. They attend city council meetings because they now have an interest in this in this community. They have a vested interest over there because got money over there. They're business owners in their area. They now have a say. They're homeowners and business owners. And they now have a say. And they begin to say things that don't help you. This is the cycle. This is how it goes. I was having a very healthy debate with my son in the money school, where he commented on that video, where he feels like, or he expressed that Black people should just buy their own blocks. And I know it's popular to say that right now. My question to him would be, how? How would you do that? He made a comment about a particular community in Atlanta, the Old Fourth Ward, and he said something like, if we had just bought and invested in those houses ourselves, then we could gentrify our own neighborhoods, and we wouldn't be complaining about these other races and other people groups coming in and kind of pushing us out. And my question to him was, wait a minute, hold up. Because didn't we own those properties in the first place? Weren't we the ones who were there in the first place? So if we don't know that we don't have access to those with the knowledge, the means, the capacity to come in and, like he said, buy up the block, then how would we do that? And how do we, if we're not aware that this is a systemic process, it happens it's the same formula. It doesn't change. They don't deviate from it at all. They don't deviate from it. I'm gonna tell you, let me give you a signal. Let me give you one of the signals, right? Let me give you another signal that you probably don't pay attention to. If you see a bank branch moving into a neighborhood, what did I just say? A neighborhood? What is that? If you see a bank moving into a neighborhood or a community, you best believe that community is beginning its gentrification phase. It is beginning, it's gonna turn, and it ain't gonna take a whole long time. When you start seeing new banks, it's done. It's a done deal. Banks typically move in first. Retail banks, they typically move in first. Think about it. Think about the neighborhoods that you've seen change, the neighborhoods that you've seen go from what they were, mostly residential, very little commerce, certainly no big box stores and things like that. All of a sudden there's a bank. Then you start seeing the big box stores. You start seeing plazas with big anchors coming in, right? Think about it. Just think about it. If you've been alive for longer than 15, 20 minutes, if you've been in the same place for 20 years, 15, 20 years, you've seen this. If you move to a place where when you got there, you could tell that it was new. A lot of stuff was new. The new plazas, the new banks, the new, and it seems so convenient, and the roads are nicely paved, and everything is clean, and it looks and feels new. You best believe this has been going on. You talk to some long-term residents, and they'll tell you about when that used to be the fill in the blank. They'll tell you about when this used to go down at the fill in the blank. And now it's a Starbucks plaza with Starbucks and Panera Bread, and some of my favorite spots, honey, Chick-fil-A. Everybody is there. Everybody is there. So I'm just saying, pay attention. Pay attention. It's your responsibility to pay attention. It's not your fault that things are the way they are, but it is your fault to educate yourself, to know what's going on, to question, to not just accept. And it's difficult to question and not just accept when you're in survival mode. It's difficult when all you can think about is getting your bills paid, getting your car note taken care of, not losing your stuff, making sure that your children are safe, making sure that, no one is stealing from you, making sure that, no one is breaking your window. You know what I'm saying? It's difficult to pay attention. But if you don't do the work, if you don't invest the time, and it's funny, Dr. Don and I had this conversation this week. We were talking about something very specific that I would like to have. And I said to her, oh God, it's just work. It's so much work. And she was like, right, it's supposed to be. That's how this works. If it were easy, you'd have it already. It would already be there. And I was like, damn, you're right. You're right. I can't, what argument can I give? What can I say aside from you right? Get your mind together, girl. Get your life together. You want it. You say you want it. Go get it. It really ain't that hard. And the thing that I want is so easy. I promise you, it's so easy. But she had to help me to remember that. She had to help me to get out of the, sometimes you will slip into a form of depression without realizing it. And I don't mean, I need some Zoloft, I'm dragging around and I don't know. And it ain't like that. Don't get it twisted. That's not what I'm talking about. But you can find yourself where if you are not careful, if you are not vigilant, and you must remain vigilant. If you are not vigilant, you can find yourself in a situation where your energy levels, your vibration begins to dip, and you go back to some old patterns and some old habits of thinking about things that are going on, or things that are coming up in your life. You're responding in old ways to things that you're familiar with. You go back to what's comfortable. We've said for a long time, the most dangerous place on the earth is the comfort zone. You don't want to be comfortable. The moment you get comfortable, you begin to lose. I promise you, you can have comforts in your life. Yes, absolutely. We all want them. Luxury and opulence and all of that stuff. But the moment you become comfortable, the moment you start feeling like, yeah, ooh, kick off my shoes and cross my legs because I done made it, I ain't got nothing else to do, you have moved yourself from the table to the menu the second you do that. So, and I had started doing that, y'all. I can't front. I had started doing that. So when I was speaking with her about this, and I heard myself whining, I heard it myself, y'all. I heard it myself. When I heard myself whining about it, I was like, yeah, nah. Yeah, I got to get it together. Wake up. Gotta get it together. So anyway, that is the frame. And I didn't even go through all of the statistics like I normally do. But that's okay. That's okay. Because what, again, we are talking about this week is what God has to say about those who do not support you. I want to quote, before I give our foundational scripture, I want to quote a wise and sage philosopher for my generation, Mr. Cat Williams. Mr. Cat Williams said from the stage, and I quote, "Be your own motherfucking most valuable player. You be your own motherfucking most valuable player." Understand what I'm saying to you. If don't nobody support you, it's okay. You support you. You know what will happen when you support you? You know what will happen when you put the emphasis on yourself? You know what will happen when you decide and you determine that with or without this person, that person, these people in this way, support in the way that you are looking for it to come? When you make the decision to do that, the universe has to yield to you, because you know what that means. You've gotten out of your comfort zone. You're doing something different in a familiar situation. So if you're doing something different in a familiar situation, you have got to get a different result. It is universal law. Like attracts like unto itself. So once you do something different, you have to attract that different thing to you. If you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting, right? That's easy. Everybody know that. So be your own most valuable player. Here is the foundational scripture. Now, y'all know that I typically quote from the New American Standard Version of the Bible. I like the plain speak. I like that it was translated after the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls. So I like this Bible. I like how it goes. So our foundational scripture for this show is Proverbs 22:17. And it says, "Incline your ear and hear the words of the wise, and apply your mind to my knowledge." That right there means be open to hearing new information. Be prepared to apply this new information. This is what's going to help you to ensure that all that hard work that you do, all this knowledge that you're acquiring, all these things that you're putting into place so your kids can have a cushy life. That's another conversation. Ooh, don't do that. That's the thing we really got to stop doing. Don't rob your children of the opportunity to build character by giving them whatever they want just because they want it. Please stop that. Can we go ahead and retire that? Let's go ahead and retire that. For real, slavery is over, y'all. And that's what you create when you do that. But anyway, that's another conversation for another day. That's another conversation. So yes, apply this knowledge. Be ready to apply this knowledge. Be ready to think differently. Be ready to do something different in a familiar situation so that you can get a different result, a different outcome. That's what you want. You want the different. You want it. You want it. It feels, people sometimes confuse feeling funny with feeling unfamiliar. It feels unfamiliar. So that's why you get that rush. That's why you get that adrenaline rush. That's why you get that tightening in your solar plexus and the contracting in your solar plexus and the racing of your heart and the flushing in your skin. It feels unfamiliar. You feel afraid. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's supposed to feel unfamiliar. It's new. You ain't never did this before. So that makes sense. You're an expert where you're an expert at, but you've never done this before. So it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's safe. It's safe for you to feel afraid in that moment. Just do it anyway. That was the wise advice that I received, and I'm passing it on to you because it's safe. Do it anyway. It's okay. All right. So today's scripture, Luke 14:16-24. Let's go to our Bibles. Let's do it together, y'all. Can we do it together? Can we do it together? We just going to read from Luke 14:16-24. And this is from the New American Standard Version of the Bible. Okay, remember that we're talking about what God has to say about those who do not support you, right? Okay. But he said to him, a man was giving a big dinner, and he invited many people. And at the dinner hour, he sent his slave to say to those who had been invited, come, for everything is ready now. But they all alike began to make excuses. The first one said to him, I bought a piece of land, and I need to go out and look at it. Please consider me excused. And another one says, I bought 5 yoke of oxen, and I'm going to try them out. So please consider me excused. And another one said, I married a wife, and for that reason, I cannot come. And the slave came back and reported to his master. And then the head of the household became angry and said to his slave, go out at once into the streets and lanes of the city and bring in here the poor and crippled and blind and lame. And the slave said to the master, what you commanded has been done, and still there's room. The master said to the slave, well, go out into the highways and along the hedges and compel them to come in so that my house may be filled. For I tell you, none of those men who were invited shall taste of my dinner. Whoosah. I don't know how much explanation is needed for this. I don't know how much explanation is needed for this. So now remember, I am quoting, these words are in red. This is Jesus talking, right? This is Jesus talking. And y'all know, it's funny to me. It's funny to me. I spent quite a bit of time going to church. I did. I spent quite a bit of time going to church. And I have to be honest with you, and at the risk of offending my church friends, I have to be very honest and say it was not as often as I believe it should have been that when lessons are given, that they were given based on the words of Jesus. So how many books? 66, 67 books in the Bible? Whatever the number is. Y'all know I don't quote me. But out of all of those books in the Bible, only 4 of them contain words that are actually ascribed to Jesus. The reason that I find this, I'm trying to figure out what word to even use. The reason that I find it, however I find it, right? The reason I got feelings about that is this. The entire point of the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, is about Jesus. The Bible is explaining the reason why there needed to be a Jesus, how a Jesus got here. Look, I mean, it goes through great lengths to describe Jesus's lineage in more than one place. From the Chronicles down to when you open up Matthew, it goes to great lengths. Remember all the begats? This one begat that one, and this one begat that one, and another one begat another one, and then this other one, and then this is how this lady who was not of this lineage ended up in here married to this man, and then that one begat that one. And it goes to great lengths to talk about what Jesus is, who he is, how he got here, who his people were, how his people were all intermingled, all mixed together, where this all came from. The whole point of the Bible, what he did when he got here, what happened after he left this earth. The whole point of the Bible is Jesus. Yet it's rare that I hear pastors preach on what Jesus said. They talk a lot about what Paul said. They talk a lot about what Timothy said. They talk about a lot about what everybody else had to say, all the apostles, all of the prophets, everybody, but Jesus. I rarely hear messages like that. Around Easter, of course, you hear about the parables. In Lent season, I think, if I remember correctly, because I went to Catholic school. I wasn't necessarily raised Catholic, but I went to Catholic school for my primary education. You hear about the parables then. You hear about Jesus then. But the rest of the other 52 weeks in the year, the other 50-some weeks in the year, 40-some weeks in the year, we're hearing about what everybody else says, and there's usually some judgmental bullshit about how you're not living right. But rarely am I seeing, or with not enough consistency, is how I would rather say that. Am I seeing pastors actually teach from the words of Jesus himself? So that's just an aside. That's not in my notes. That's just me speaking from my heart. So here Jesus is talking about heaven. His disciples asked him, like, they want to know, like, what's waiting for us? What is heaven like? And Jesus consistently showed them that heaven is right here on earth. Think about it. Babies come through heaven's gate every day. Every day. Babies come through heaven's gate every day. Several times, hundreds of times per day, thousands of times per day. Babies enter through the gates. And the Bible says that anybody who comes in any way other than through the gates is an imposter. So remember, that's the whole point. The whole point of the Immaculate Conception and Jesus being born of God and of man, and, fully God, fully man. All of that was to explain Jesus. All of that was to say, this is why. Here he is. Here's the reason. He is supposed to be the example. If you're a Bible-believing Christian, Jesus is the example. So all of this other stuff that we let ourselves get caught up in, debates about abortion and, whether or not, this tax or that tax, and, what women should do with their bodies, and gun laws, and all of this stuff that the church, excusing horrible behavior. horrible, abominable behavior by people in power, excusing it, saying to people, well, look, God put him in place for this reason, such a time as this, all of that foolishness. When Jesus is saying, look, this is what heaven is like. This is what it is right here. Not that foolishness. Jesus said, give unto Caesar those things that are Caesar's, and unto God those things that are God's. But here we go. Child, that's another story. Y'all done got me all hot under the collar and stuff. And sat here and let me get to talking and carrying on. And I'm around here, the hot under the collar about this thing. But anyway, the point that I'm making is this is Jesus talking. And what Jesus says, if I'm going to be a faith-driven Christian, then I should be believing what Jesus said over what everybody else say, shouldn't I? Ain't that how it goes? I'm just saying. So Jesus said, this is what heaven is like. There's a whole bunch of people who are invited. Everybody can come in. Let me say it this way. He selected the ones that seemed worthy. This master, he selected the ones, his contemporaries. He selected the people who were, other masters. He was aristocratic. He was a wealthy man. So of course, like attracts like unto itself. He's inviting other wealthy people. And they're wealthy because the reason they can't come is because they buying stuff, right? They can't come because they buying stuff. They buying land and they buying oxen, and dude, just got married. And, so they doing the traditional stuff that they do around just getting married. But here he is. Here he's inviting other people of stature to join him in a feast, right? So the King James Version reads slightly differently. Hold on, I'm going to pull up King James. It reads slightly different. Actually, I'm going to pull up New King James. So in the King James Version, it starts out saying, now when those who had sat at the table with him heard these things, he said, blessed is he who shall eat bread in the kingdom of God. And then he said to them, a certain man gave a great supper and invited many. And he goes into the story, right? He goes on into the story. And he's explaining to these people, hold on one moment. He's explaining to these people that this is, what heaven is like, right? He's talking about this particular conversation is about places of honor, right? Which is reminding me of another funny story where, well, I don't know if it was funny because I was actually a little bit offended when this happened, but I heard somebody talking about this thing they call the law of honor. Some made up bullshit where you basically just supposed to listen to or follow someone who has more experience than you simply because they have more experience than you. But we all have experienced situations with someone who has far less experience than we do. Let's say I call them a fresh pair of eyes, can look at a situation that's been dogging us for years and just see the solution. They don't know what the problem is. Your experience can teach you what the problems are. And, we all have had situations where someone with no experience with whatever that problem is can come in and simply see the solution. They don't even know it's a problem, right? So we were Dr. Don and I, boy, the adventures of Dr. Don and Celebrity Mary, honey. We were someplace and someone came up with that, said that to us. And Dr. Don and I kind of looked at each other like, law of honor. And, my mouth, where heaven was, I had got born and I had this mouth. And this mouth, like sometimes it'll just say stuff. It'll just say stuff. And I'd be like, ooh. Law of honor, get the fuck out of here with that. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I'm not saying that we should be around here disrespecting or discounting other people's experience or experiences, but come on, dog. We can't do it just because. We can't do that. That only works in your house when parents say just because, okay? Just because I said so. That's a parent move. My mama ain't here. My mama wasn't in that room that day. My daddy wasn't in that room that day. Neither was none of my foremothers. Nobody wasn't in that room that day that gave birth to me. So I'm just saying, don't be talking about something just because. Don't do it. Don't do it. So anyway, the discussion was around places of honor. Jesus had observed that people at the feast where they were, they were trying to, get to the head of the table. Oh, this is fun. This is juicy because me and Dr. Don had this conversation too about someone else that we knew. She and this other person were invited to speak someplace. And she had actually brought in this other person. She had actually been the one to bring this person in. And the woman whose event it was wanted to rely on Dr. Don's expertise. And this woman did have what we might consider places of honor. She was trying to balance out, her table. She had somebody who talks about this on this side and someone who talks about this on that side. And she wanted Dr. Don and this other person to be right next to her, and then each of their people would kind of follow behind. And the person who Dr. Don brought with her wanted to take the seat that was directly next to the head, who she didn't even know. So she was trying to put herself between Dr. Don and the woman who had invited them. And when the lady asked him to switch seats, she got a little salty, y'all. She got like ocean salty around that piece, y'all. She got like Dead Sea ocean salty around that piece, y'all. And then she started going around talking about the lady. I know she did because she called me up trying to talk about the lady. And I was like, you know me and her friends, right? Like, and not just friends, like we not frenemies, like we friends. That's my homegirl. I trust this lady. This lady has been nothing but an asset in my life. So why you think it's okay to come to me with that? And I ain't heard from her no more since. What's she doing? I wonder where she at. No, I don't. I don't give a fuck where she is. But anyway, so people were arguing about kind of where to sit. And that's why Jesus started talking about heaven. They would want to be as close to the master as possible. People want to be close to Jesus. They want, pick me, Jesus, pick me. I want you to see me. I want, it's natural. I think people kind of do that in this, this ego-driven body that we live in. It just kind of goes like that. That's kind of par for the course. So I'm not making a judgment against these people, but Jesus saw it as a teachable moment. He saw an opportunity to be able to help them to understand that none of that matters. Like what you're doing right there, that's illusion. That is what King Solomon called vanity and vexation of spirit. This is not going to get you anything. In the greater scheme of things, there is no places of honor. In heaven, there are no places of honor. It just don't go like that. I get, maybe the right hand of the Father, but I think that seat is occupied. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, I'm just reading the Bible. That's all I'm saying. I don't know, but that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying, right? So the people who believe that they're supposed to be in certain places because of, fill in the blank, those people oftentimes will overlook the opportunity. And certainly if it doesn't look like an opportunity. You see, if a person of stature is having a feast, especially during those times, it was a big deal to put together a big dinner. It's a big deal to do that. They have to, process meat. Like they have to go and kill animals and process it. This is a days-long process. This is, it could be weeks or even months that it takes in order to get all of the provisions and victuals that you need and get it all to a place where eating it won't kill you, and preparing it in the way that it needs to be prepared, skinning animals and, letting on animal bloodletting and, all the stuff that has to happen in order to be able to put on a big feast. So it's not like if you go to, maybe let me give you a modern day example. You go to the butcher shop and you buy a whole side of beef. You ain't had to do all the preparation, but you had to spend a pretty penny. You might have had to spend almost $1,000 on a side of beef to feed, and I'm assuming, I don't know what a side of beef costs. I'm just assuming, I'm just in my brain, I'm guessing what it would cost if I want, actually, that would be way more because a pack of ribs, just one pack of ribs, and that's like the thin ones, that's like $10 by itself, just one of them, one little slab of ribs, raw, uncooked, you got to clean it and all of that. So let's say a side of beef costs $5,000. I don't know what it costs, but let's say that's what you went and did. You went and bought a side of beef and you went and bought, 2,000 pounds worth of other food, side dishes and whatnot. And you went and bought, $15,000 worth of seafood. And you did all of this. You spend like $30,000 buying things that you believe your guests will appreciate. and you have rented out a beautiful space and you have it wonderfully decorated, and you know you got you're thinking of the comforts of your guests, and you want to make sure that you make a good impression on them, and you want them to, you know, you want to share your wealth with them, because that's really what you're doing, right? When you're making a big feast, you want to celebrate them and have them celebrate you, and you invite your peers, and they all got reasons why they can't show up. It ain't like, you know, you did this in secret. A lot of times, every time I've done an event, I'm doing it with the expectation that you're gonna do what you told me you was gonna do. If I got an event coming up, I mean, I'm gonna take it down. I ain't gonna even go that far, because I don't know what event I would do where I'm spending that kind of bread. But right now, hold on. I'm gonna tell y'all I just thought of one right now. So anyway, these people are invited. They know they're invited. They've RSVP'd. They've let him know, yeah, I'm coming. Yeah, I'll be there. You know, or maybe it's just typical that when we do this particular feast on these particular days, everybody's supposed to show up. But the point is that this man expected these people, because this was customary. This didn't come out the blue for them. He was expecting these people to show up, and he invested all his time and energy into getting this prepared for them. And when the time came, they decided, yeah, no, I ain't doing that. If you are all peers and you all are people of honor, and you reach out to your peers and say, hey, I'm doing this thing. I got this, you know, I'm setting this up, and I expect you to come. I expect you to be there. And you don't say at that time, nah, I ain't coming. I can't make it, whatever. I'm going to be in another country, whatever. If you don't say that, then the expectation is you're there. Is it not dishonorable and indeed disrespectful for you to not show up? Same with the people in your life. We expect that when we are doing this beautiful, great, big, ambitious, important work that we're doing when we start our businesses, for instance, whether it's a business that you start from the ground up or that you buy into, we go first to the people who we feel like are our peers, because they're safe, right? We know each other. They know I ain't gonna bring them no bullshit. We know one another. We're in relationship with each other. So if I'm doing something, surely my people are going to be as happy for him and for me as I am excited to get this done. And they're going to be there to support me. And then you started, and they got all kinds of excuses and reasons why they don't, why they can't, why they won't. Because that's what it really is. Nobody ever is telling you the truth unless they say, I just don't want to do it. They're never telling you the truth about why they aren't supporting you. They're never telling you. Because the truth of the matter is, you prioritize things that are priority to you. And if your loved one is a priority to you, when they launch their business, you know how much courage it takes to take that step, especially if you don't have all your shit together. Do you know how much courage it takes for somebody to just jump out there and start doing it? I almost have more admiration for people who are willing to just launch out in the deep, even though they don't know what the hell they're doing. They out there, arms flailing, ass flapping in the wind, but they trying to get it. What happens is the universe sends them help. The universe will send them people who will help them get their shit together so that they can deliver a higher quality service. Now, it's up to them to accept the help, because a lot of times, people don't want to help either. They feeling judged because they're judging themselves. But that's another conversation for another day. But you got somebody, you know how much courage it takes to start your own thing. So for someone to, invest the time, the energy, the talent, the treasure that it takes to get something done, to get something going, to the sting of people who you thought would support you, not supporting you, can be, pretty heavy, pretty big. It can make you feel like, wow, I'm doing this don't even make no sense. And then right about the time that you give up, that's when you start noticing, or other people begin to notice you, and they begin to ask about it, and they begin to want to invest in your whatever your widgets and wares are. They want to buy something. They want you to explain to them how it works. They want to know. They see you. I see you doing your thing, little mama. I see you doing your thing, big papa. They see you. So Jesus is describing this whole heaven in this way, because it's people that you don't expect. It's the blind, it's the crippled, it's the lame, right? It's the infirm, it's the ones out at the hedges and the highways. And the invitation to your peers a lot of times is rescinded. I know for me, myself personally, I have for a long time wanted to do work with certain people in my family, in my close circle, and they have it for whatever their reasons are. And my justification, the way that I soothe myself at the lack of them working with me is like this. They don't want me, they're ashamed in some cases. They don't want me to know what's going on with them, or what's going on like for real in their shit, or they simply don't believe in me. They don't believe that I can do what I said I would do for them. And it really is not me that they're not believing in, it's them that they don't believe in, but if I'm reflecting that, I'm reflecting some part of them that says that's impossible. You do it first, but show me yours. Anytime you get that kind of pushback, it ain't me, boo, it's you. It ain't me, it's you. You feeling ways because you feeling ways. They ain't got nothing to do with me. I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm not gonna go there because I was about to go on a tangent. I had to bring it back down real quick. I was about to go off on a tangent. But the point that I'm making here is that oh, it's almost time for me to get on out of here. Wow, I just realized that. The point that I'm making here, though, is that if you aren't seeing the levels of support from the people that are closest to you, right? The takeaway is that it's not anything that you're doing. It's them. It's not you. It's them. And the other thing is, according to Jesus, according to right here in this Bible, a lot of times it ain't even supposed to be them. And not just that, you can always rely on, there's always going to be a contingency. There's always going to be a remnant. There's always going to be a ram in the bush. There's always going to be those who actually will appreciate the poor and the crippled, the blind and the lame, as well as those out at the hedges and the highways who will support what it is that you're doing. That's what God has to say about those who don't support you. It's okay. It's okay. Don't invite them no more. When they come, they got to pay. When they show up, they got to pay. But Jesus said none of them who were invited will ever taste it. You got to let yourself be okay with it. No matter who they are to you, you got to let yourself be okay with the fact that they'll never taste it. They'll never have it. Anyway, y'all, I hate to rush off, but it is time because I got to get my head on out of here. I got a whole plane to get on. So at any rate, make sure that you come back next Sunday. I will not feel as rushed. I will not feel as pressured to get this done. And we can chit chat a little later, a little longer. I'll make sure that you have the number so you can call in. But in the meantime, I love you, and there's absolutely nothing that you can do about it. Peace.